Meet Mark. Right now, he is trying to do the impossible. He is trying to hack his own timeline. Look at the screen. He is 2 years old here. He sees the laughter. He sees the grass. He sees his father's hands. But do you know what the problem is? Mark feels absolutely nothing. To him, that toddler on the film is a stranger. It could just as well be any other kid in any other park. Mark is a professional archivist. He makes a living saving history. But in his own history, the first 3 years are scorched earth. No first step, no taste of mother's milk, no terror of the first dark room. 3 years of life, 1,000 days, just gone. And honestly, Mark is not alone. We are all in the same boat. On average, your earliest memory begins around 3.5 years old. And everything before that? Science calls by the dry term infantile amnesia. Freud believed we remember everything, but we repress it because it is too traumatic. Mark thinks he simply lost the file, and if he tries hard enough, he will find it. But they are both wrong. The truth is much scarier and much more interesting. Your brain didn't lose those memories. It destroyed them. Deliberately. Ruthlessly. Imagine a hard drive that overwrites itself just to free up space for a new operating system. Today, we are going to find out why nature decided to steal the beginning of your own life from Mark and from you. And why this theft was actually an act of mercy. Mark thinks memory is a library, and somewhere on those dusty shelves lies a book titled Mark, Volume 1, ages 0 to 3. He just needs the key. But modern neuroscience tells us something Mark finds very hard to accept. Forgetting your childhood isn't a passive process. It's not old paint peeling in the sun. It is an active program. Your brain spends a massive amount of energy to guarantee that you never remember seeing the light for the first time. Mark is looking for treasure, but his brain considers it trash, construction debris. And there is one more reason, one that lies deeper than biology. It is a philosophical trap. To have a memory, you need someone to remember it. You need an I, an observer. I saw that dog. I was scared. But what if, in those first years of life, Mark simply didn't exist yet? Back in the 1970s, psychologists came up with a brilliant test, the mirror test. It is simple. You secretly put a red dot on a child's forehead and place them in front of a mirror. Until 18 months old, the baby looks in the mirror and sees a friend, another baby to play with. They reach out to the glass. But somewhere between 18 and 24 months, something clicks. A revolution. The child looks in the mirror, sees the red dot, and their hand reaches not for the glass, but for their own forehead. In that moment, the I is born. In that moment, Mark the toddler realized for the first time, wow, that thing in the mirror is me. I am here. I am separate. That was the day the main character arrived in his head, the narrator. Now, try to imagine the world before that moment. Mark's world at 6 months old. It is mind-bending, I know. Before the I appears, the world is not a story. It is a stream, a chaos of pure sensation. There is no thought, I am cold. There is just cold. There is no, I am hungry. There is a giant sensation of hunger that fills the entire universe. It is a movie without a protagonist. That is why Mark cannot remember himself at 1 year old. His current I is an operating system installed at 2 years old. It simply cannot read the files created before it was installed. Those early experiences had no owner. They belonged to no one. They were pure consciousness, not yet compressed into the tiny dot we call a personality. But let's say the files are unreadable. They must still physically exist somewhere, right? What exactly is happening in the brain that makes this wall so impenetrable? Mark is a stubborn guy. He understood the concept of the I, but he didn't give up. He thinks, okay, maybe I don't remember who I was, but my brain was recording. Where are the tapes? And here we come to perhaps the cruelest irony of our brain. It is called neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons. For you and me, as adults, this happens slowly. But in an infant's brain, it is an explosion, a waterfall. Memory is not a file folder. It is connections. It is bridges between neurons. But when thousands of new neurons are born in little Mark's head, they crowd into these bridges. And do you know what happens? They break them. They sever the old connections. Scientists in Toronto proved this back in 2014. It is a paradox. The brain grows in order to learn, and to learn better, it must delete. Mark is looking for an archive, but at 2 years old, his brain wasn't an archive. It was a construction site. And on a construction site, things are constantly being demolished. The rapid growth of new cells helps us quickly learn language, learn to walk, understand gravity. But old memories? They are just dead weight. We need that space for what matters. Of course, maybe those memories aren't ground to dust. Scientists say they might become silent synapses. They are there physically, but because your brain was constantly shuffling the deck to grow you into an adult, you simply don't have the address for those cells. Somewhere around 4 years old, this fire dies down. And only then, on the cooled earth, was Mark able to start writing his story. But even when he started writing, he was missing something. The most important tool of all. Imagine you are searching Google for an image you saw a year ago, but there is a condition. You cannot use words. No cat, no sunset, no blue. You will never find it. Mark hit a wall that psychologists call the language barrier. At 2 years old, Mark had experiences. He had feelings, but he didn't have tags. And our adult brain is a search engine that looks only for tags. Language is the best compression tool in the world. It takes a complex bouquet of sensations, the smell of rain, wet asphalt, cold, and compresses it into one single word: autumn. It is genius for storage, but it is murder for accuracy. The experience we couldn't name simply ceased to exist for us. But it is not just about words. It is about how we use them. Mark grew up here, in Western culture, and it seems that stole another year of memories from him. Look at this. The Maori people of New Zealand. Their memories start, on average, at 2.5 years old. Mark, like a typical European, starts at 3.5, and people in East Asia, almost 4.5. 2 years of difference. How is that possible? The secret is in the stories. Maori mothers speak to their children differently. They don't just ask, "Did you eat?" They ask, Do you remember that big red bird? Were you scared? Where did it fly? They teach the child's brain to be a director. They build a scaffold for memory. If parents don't help a child turn their day into a story, that day disappears. And here, Mark is hit with the most unpleasant discovery. Those few scraps of childhood he thinks he remembers, most likely, they are not his memories. They are his mother's stories. They are old photos he has seen 1,000 times. His memory is not a documentary. It is a reconstruction. Fan fiction about his own life. Don't believe me? Look at the woman who remembers everything. Mark thinks there is something wrong with his memory. But meet Jill Price, a woman who suffers from the opposite. She is not fiction. She is a real person, patient A.J. In the year 2000, she wrote to doctors, "My memory gives me no peace. It is a running movie that never stops." Jill is the first person diagnosed with hyperthymesia. Give her any date from the last 40 years, any date. She will instantly tell you what day of the week it was, what the weather was like, what was on TV. She remembers everything. But do you know what this woman with the perfect memory remembers about herself at 2 years old? Nothing. Absolute zero. Even her superbrain is powerless against this wall. She stands at the exact same spot as you and me. This means that wiping childhood is not a bug. It is a factory setting. But Mark's brain, like yours, hates a vacuum. It hates holes in the plot. And to patch them up, it starts to lie. This is called confabulation. Your brain takes an old photo, adds mom's story, seasons it with a dream you had when you were 10, and edits it into a scene. And it serves it to you stamped, absolute truth. Mark is chasing a ghost. That memory he so desperately wants to bring back likely never existed in the way he remembers it. It is a mirage, a comfort for the adult mind. Mark feels cheated, betrayed by his own mind. But what if this theft was a gift? 2,500 years ago, Plato said something beautiful. We are born not clean, but forgetful. That the soul had to drink from the river Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, to become human. For philosophers, this black hole in memory is not a bug. It is the price of admission to life. Imagine for a second that you remembered that state of pure consciousness before age 2. That feeling of oneness with the entire world. If you remembered that, would you ever want to become yourself? A small, separate, mortal I? Infantile amnesia is a curtain. It falls so that the play called The Life of Mark can begin. To become someone, you have to forget that you were everything. Mark turns off the projector. He is no longer trying to splice together film that doesn't exist. He understands. That fire in his head, those new neurons that erased his infancy, they didn't kill his past. They created his mind. That chaos gave him the ability to speak, to love, and to understand this sunset right now. It wasn't a theft. It was a fair trade. Your I started with a clean slate for a reason. You don't remember the beginning of the book because, in the beginning, there was no reader. And there is a certain justice in that. You don't carry the weight of those first years. You don't remember the pain of birth. You don't remember the helplessness. You were left with only what you need to move forward. So don't try to go back into the dark. Your story is being written right now. And this time, you have everything you need to remember it. This is Omega Point. We explore reality so you can feel it.